everyone. This is Anya Farber, your host of Zionist AF. We are bringing more and more interesting things. We were contacted. We found out about this amazing play, October 7th, that is currently running in New York. I believe that there will be more to come, but don't worry, guys. All of the information is going to be here on the podcast. In addition, before we even put all that out, we were like, we need to know more. We need to know more. Like, I need. So, Phelim, the producer and writer of this play, is here to explain to us kind of how this all came about, how he put this together, and the background also on him and why he felt that he needed to bring this to us. So, Phelim, thank you so much for joining us here on Zionist AF. Please tell me kind of how this came about, this play.
Well, we were in Ireland on October 7th, and we noticed right away that people were talking. Almost on October 8th, they started talking about how terrible the war in Gaza was, and Israel's retaliation, and Israel's this, and Israel that. And no one was talking about October 7th.
Are you talking about the news? Are you talking about, like, news was talking about that?
Funny, we noticed that people were talking about it, but these were ordinary people who get their news from mainstream sources. And, it wasn't their fault as such, in the sense they weren't being told any different. The media journalists had done a terrible job in reporting what happened on October 7th. And they called journalism.
Thank you for saying that.
They called journalism the first draft of history. And, we felt that wasn't even being written, that they'd abdicated their responsibility. So me and my wife, Anne, we decided, this is the time to tell the story. These stories need to be told. So we went to Israel, collected about 20 testimonies of people, interviewed them at length, interviewed some of them several times, and then crafted that into a story of 13 people who lived through that day in different ways, and some of them tangentially, some of them not, some of them in the middle of it. So, just the story of October 7th told from multiple, sort of like the movie Crash, from multiple perspectives.
Thank you for also giving that, that kind of like context, because if someone comes to the play, they're going to know it's going to be like from these multiple perspectives. But you mentioned your wife as well. So does you and your wife have a journalism background? I mean, I have to say, Phelim, first of all, like, it's commendable that someone would be like, wait a minute, obviously this is wrong. And sometimes it's frustrating for me as well, as someone who's bringing information to people. You're like, how is it that, like, no one's talking about what's actually going on? But that was, first of all, I mean, did you utilize like your journalism training and background to kind of know to go together, and how did that come about?
Well, we always work together, and we're both journalists and have many decades of experience. And at the end of the day, this is just journalism. It's a verbatim play, so it's a very pure form of journalism. There's no editorializing, there's no context in the sense, there's no headlines on it. There's no play. Everything that's said on stage was actually said to us as part of someone's story. So it's weaving these stories together to tell a very important story. So it's just pure journalism. But it's a commentary in journalism as well, because if mainstream journalists had done their job, there'd be no need for this play. Everyone would know these stories. Everyone would know the names of the victims. Everyone, these names would be on the tip of everyone's tongue. I mean, people know the names of several people who were killed in the World Trade Center. They know the stories, and that was 20 or 30 years ago. But they remember the stories. I don't think people remember the stories of October 7th, and that's why we have done this play. It needs to be front and center, and a play is still a way of getting a lot of media attention.
Phelim, I think you might have just given us like literally the quote of the century, and I don't know if you realized you did it. You said if mainstream journalism had done their job, there'd be no need for this play. And I think a lot of us who are trying to bring the information about what actually happened that day and the stories of survivors are very frustrated. And oftentimes you have to wonder. And obviously, if you and your wife are both trained journalists, you've seen things, you've reported on things, You weren't born yesterday, so you've had some experience, and you're able to be like, this literally doesn't make sense to me, and I'm a smart person. And I think it's very frustrating because the events on that day actually don't make sense, right? Because it was the levels of depravity and inhumanity are things that they don't make sense. But I think the only way to do this, and I have to say, and I'm sure you've heard this when you were in Israel or just being around, like a huge kol hakavod, like very well done, toda rabah, like a thank you, because you stood up, you were not silent, you said, no, this is like ridiculous. I'm a journalist, I have integrity, I'm going to do my job. Maybe the rest of you should start doing that, but I'm going to lead by example because I can only control me. Actually, well, you, both of you. So you said we. So, and I think that that's very special. And to be honest with you, I have to say it's a delight. You have such a lovely accent. I'm sure people say that to you all the time, like the Irish accent. It just makes me smile a little bit. But I think it also is very significant that you and your wife were in Ireland at the time.
Yes.
And said, no, we need to go and get this firsthand.
Totally.
Is that something you guys have done before, like traveled to other places to kind of get firsthand testimonies or?
Yeah. Well, we've done these kind of plays before, often using court cases. Yes, because a court case is a drama, an encapsulated drama, and if you reenact the court case, you can get a very dramatic play. And we did a podcast on the Kevin Spacey case, and we reenacted many of the courtroom clashes from the courtroom case here in New York. So we do reenact dramatic incidents verbatim for dramatic purposes, and it's called verbatim theater or verbatim podcasting. Cool. And it's a very, very interesting and compelling way of telling a story because people are really interested because they know it's not you editorializing.
Exactly.
You get to hear what people are saying and what they're thinking. And truth, of course, is often stranger than fiction.
One of the things I've said, Phelim, about October 7th is because one of the things that we have been doing is recording testimony of survivors from the kibbutzim, from Nova, etc. I say things like the most whacked out Hollywood writer of a horror film could never in his sickest, I don't know, like thought process, could he have come up with this? Because it's the level of inhumanity we have never seen, and it doesn't dismiss other horrible things that have happened. That's not what you're saying. That's not what I'm saying. But the level, and so I think again, you and your wife should be commended for doing that. But I think that there's something else that, again, you said something. It's like it's this idea of verbatim. We're literally just bringing you. We're not like here's my take on what's going on. No, here is what is going on. Here's what happened. And by the way, here's the reality of the future, right? And so with all of this, I mean, I think that what you guys have done, I know that right now you guys are putting this on in New York City, but there is an end date to the play. So is there hopes of maybe traveling either around the United States first to other maybe larger cities or locations, or possibly going to Europe? I mean, if you two are from Ireland, I feel like Ireland should get kind of like a chance at this too. To see it.
No, we've had requests to bring it to Ireland. We've had requests to bring it to Germany. We've had requests to bring it to Argentina. There are people want this to. We've even had interest in bringing it to Israel. So people want this to be seen. People want this to be heard. It's important. Oh, and we are going to bring it. We're determined to bring it on a tour of the Ivy League. Bring it to all the universities. That needs some.
I think that's a good idea. Well, Phelim, I first of all, I want to say, I think that's a fantastic idea, and anything we can do here on the podcast to help you do that, we are 100% on board. Because, and then I wonder, almost being from another country, and when you're currently living in the United States and seeing what's going on campuses, I almost wonder what that must be like. I mean, as an American, I'm disgusted, that this is going on. I'm also just kind of flabbergasted, and I literally have no words sometimes because the disconnect, right? And you said it, like Ivy League, right? Ivy League's supposed to be like, oh, I'm like, this is the high. Well, clearly not, but like that's a whole other podcast in and of itself. Now, with this particular play, when you and your wife, went to Israel, was that the first time you guys had been to Israel?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, first time to go to Israel, and we kept saying, why haven't we been here before? Even though we were in the middle of a war,
Yeah.
it's still an amazing country and still an amazing people.
When did you guys like get there? How quickly did you get there?
We were there in November. So
Wow. Oh, okay. That is amazing. Yeah.
yeah.
And so what you were also seeing, and it only almost has like, increased maybe twofold, threefold, fourfold, tenfold, is also like not just what immediately happened at those places, but like the aftermath and how a lot of people are not in their homes. And we still have, I mean, if you can, this is like almost unbelievable, but we're now 8 months out and we still have over 100 souls that are unaccounted for.
Yes.
And I'm sure that was some of the stories.
No, that was some of the stories. We were interviewing people, and they were in someone else's house, wearing someone else's clothes. That the disruption to people's lives. In terms of human loss, but just in terms of loss of home, loss of community, loss of everything. It was a massive assault on Israel and a massive assault on Israelis, and that came across. People were losing faith in Israel. Now they also had gained, a lot of them had gained religious faith and gained faith and felt more Jewish and felt more Israeli. It's a very, very interesting time for Israel, and we were so happy that people trusted us to tell their stories. Because it's important that we capture these stories as they're happening, and the media is not going to do that. And we felt it was very important to get it on in the theater down the road from me here in New York. Also, to this, I mean, it's amazing that this is a play that requires a police protection in New York. It's the only play currently on in New York that requires permanent police protection. And we have our own private security with airport-style scanners and X-ray machines. And it says a lot that in 2024, a play about Israel, a play about Jewish people, requires permanent police protection in New York in 2024. Who could have thought of that 10 years ago? Who would have even thought that would happen? But no, it's true. That's how much the world has changed. Or maybe the world hasn't changed. Maybe the world's just got more brazen.
That is a very heavy question, Phil. And I don't have the answer. Now, I'm glad you mentioned that for two reasons, if you don't mind, if I can ask about that. So one, is this something you guys decided would make the most sense and proactively set this up? Or once you brought this play, and also like, why New York first?
Well, New York is the center of the theater world. I mean, if you're going to put on a play, you put it on in New York.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
If you want for maximum impact, for maximum media. But of course, the media is doing its best to ignore this play because the truth hurts. The truth's uncomfortable. The truth shatters your assumptions, shatters your belief. And that you don't want that in the mainstream media. That would be an absolute crime. So, yeah, no, there's nowhere else to put on a play, to run a play for the first time except New York.
And did you guys say, listen, we're going to put the security situation in place proactively ahead of time to allow the people coming to see it to feel better, allow the actors and actresses to feel better, or was it just mandated?
No. You could not have actors on stage in the current atmosphere without heavy police protection and heavy protection in the audience. Like there are, let's just say, significant security people in the audience every night. And they are significantly prepared for any eventuality. And I'll just leave it at that. But, you could not have people on stage in the current atmosphere portraying victims of October 7th in this world, that without security. And that says a lot. But it shows you how important this story is, and it shows you how much people hate the truth.
I'm not even sure which thing to follow up first with you, because all of that was like so significant. Well, so if people are going to go online, and all the links to buy the tickets are going to be attached to the podcast, is the security protocol like no backpacks or anything like that? Is that listed on the site? Like, are they able to find that?
You can have backpacks. They'll just get searched on the way.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Okay, so guys, all of that will I'm sure it'll all be listed and clear, and of course, that's things that they can contact about. Well, I think that's good to know, and I think that also it's a statement. Like it's a statement that you're making by saying like, okay, so we have to take these protocols. Like, okay, fine, but it's not going to stop me from bringing this to you, and it's not going to stop these people from sharing the stories of those that you interviewed, to do it in the sense of like, here's my perspective, like it's, you said it's like in their own words. So these actors and actresses are literally, when they're speaking the words, not that you and your wife like created.
No,
they're literally speaking the words of what you took, the testimonies you took.
Yes, yeah, it's verbatim, and it's verbatim, and it's what people said to us, and it's sometimes it's raw, sometimes it's rough, sometimes it's angry, sometimes it's conciliatory, sometimes it's people have no words, as one of the characters says, I just have no words. But it's important that we captured this moment in history and brought it to people, and are going to bring it to people who need to know the truth.
Yeah, well, I don't know what else to say to you aside from like Kol Hakavod and Toda Rabah, because Phelim, there was we've talked about this on other podcasts. There's a billboard I passed the other day with my son on the way to synagogue, and it said, I have to be able to tell my children I didn't stay silent.
Yeah.
And I think what you and your wife did is make that statement. And again, I can only imagine the reception you got in Israel of like almost like bewilderment, graciousness, just being floored by the fact that you and your wife were like, no, this is what is going to have to happen, and we're going to do everything we can so that we know we told the truth. We stayed, true to our journalism. We stayed true to our humanity, because what happened that day is not it's not about a two-state solution. It's not about Jews. It's not about any. It literally was a crime against humanity. And anyone who considers herself a human and has a soul knows that. And you guys are like, no, we're going to tell this story. So, I mean, I am coming to the play, and I like, part of me wants to be like, I can't wait to see it, which is hard because I take testimony as well. And I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but I'm sure that there's an overwhelming interest. I think I'm excited to see how you've put it all together. I think I feel comfortable saying that. But I'm eager to know like each next step that you guys will have, whether it's taking it first to Ireland or, touring the Ivy Leagues or however you guys set that up. And obviously we will update everyone on the podcast, like those next steps, as soon as you have, solidified them. Now, have any other journalists who or call themselves journalists, have they come to the play and contacted you at all and said anything to you?
No, look, yes, there has been journalists. It's been in Newsweek, it's been in the Daily Mail, it's been in Fox News, but the New York Times hasn't covered it. And this is like the New York Times. They've got a big theater audience. They've got a big Jewish
I was just going to say it's New York.
They've got a big New York audience, but they don't. They think this is not relevant to their readers, and it's like, I think the reason they're not covering it is because it is relevant to their readers.
Yeah. Well, Phelim, I sincerely hope that you and your wife know that every single person that's been touched by this is grateful for the fact that you went and did this and put this together. I hope for you that all of the success that I know you will have by bringing this to other locations, whether it be in the U.S., whether it be on campus, whether it be other countries, Ireland, and I really hope Ireland gets one of the first dibs at this because, of you and your wife being from there. You should be proud of your heritage. And then I'm sure at some point Israel, when it makes the most sense for people, when it's like not detrimental, but it's positive. But I know that the success of this play and the fact that it will travel around, at the end of the day, that's what matters. And all the people that didn't do it, or that, like you said, the New York Times didn't. Well, you know what? It will only show how journalism has changed, and how it used to be about reporting the facts. It used to be about, it's really changed. And I think you also made a really amazing point, and maybe didn't even know when you referenced 9/11. I think, right around that time, like shortly after 9/11, journalism changed, like media changed. It was less about fact checking, and it was much more about, like, you could tell where the bias was coming from in a lot of ways, all across the board. And I don't know why that is, or exactly what happened to make that happen. It doesn't matter, because it is what it is, right? We are in on the reality that we're in. And until more people like you and your wife take a stand, people aren't going to know the truth.
Yeah, I think journalism has been in decline for a long time. For Walter Cronkite, we're going to lose the Vietnam
remember Walter
War.
Cronkite.
Yeah, no, but we're going to lose the Vietnam War, and it's like, this man, it's like, it's not, or it's not, wasn't his place to say that, but that's the goal. We look upon that as the golden age of journalism. Then we got the Yugoslavian civil war. I remember that, where the Bosnians were the good people and the Serbians were the evil people, and it's like, we all bought that. But that was journalism of the cat, they called it, and that, and then we had to take sides, and that really fed into identity politics as well, where every group of people has to be good people or bad people. And I suppose what the Jewish people didn't realize was, they looked at, when the BLM thing happened, or the gay rights thing, they would say straight white people bad, African Americans good. They divide, rather than look at people as individuals. These movements looked upon them, ascribed qualities to their race or to their grouping. And I think the Jewish people didn't realize that they would come for them, that they would have to make a decision about, that the world would make a decision about the Jewish people based on perceived qualities of an identity, as opposed to the actual actions of that group, the actual ethical foundations of that group, the behavior of that group. Behavior means nothing. You're condemned for being guilty because you are Jewish. And it's not, it's sort of a bit of old-fashioned anti-Semitism mixed in with new identity politics. There is no hope, because you have been described that you're now the oppressor. So every Jewish person is part of that problem now in the new world order, and that's what, and journalism is about pushing identity politics now. So that's where we are, and it's not a good place to be, and that's why we need plays like October 7th, because this shows what happened. Tell me how the hunting down and slaughtering of 1,200 men, women, and children, 400 of whom were dancing, 400 of whom were, probably the most liberal leftist children of Israel, who would have done anything for Palestinians, who would have been very pro-Palestinians. Tell me how the slaughter of them fits into this idea that Israelis are the oppressors. But we're not allowed to ask that question, because Israelis are automatically bad now, Palestinians are automatically good, and that's the world that we have now found ourselves in, and Israel is finding itself increasingly isolated as a result. I have no solutions to it, except we need to put October 7 right back on everyone's lips, and that's where we're doing October 7 the play.
Well, again, I'm going to thank you, because you again said another, I guess it's your journalism training for these great facts and sound bites. Like when I was taking testimony of someone from one of the kibbutzim, that's, you can see Gaza across the field.
Yes.
One of the things that, and I have not seen the play yet, but I am coming to see it. One of the things that one of the testimony I was given was a lot of the people that, like, it's on film, it's documented, it's not it's like, the security cameras caught it all. The people that came over and perpetrated these heinous acts were some of the people that were employed who were initially legally passing through the border to work in Israel and were employed by a lot of the people that they then did unspeakable things to.
Yep.
And like you literally just said, October 7th, the play is a way for this to be on the tip of everyone's tongue, to be coming out of people's mouths, to remember that. And again, if we do not acknowledge history and learn from it, it will repeat itself. I mean, we said this, and when we say never again, we mean never again, and never again is now. And it's really scary.
Yeah.
It's really scary. And I'm sure you see it now that you and your wife are in New York, on college. And I thank you for referencing college campuses. And I will do everything I can to support you guys to bring it to college campuses, because it's discussing what's going on. And to the point of, we're not even, as a family, like my son and I, he's not even looking at American universities anymore, because we're going to take a stand, right? We're not going to be silent. We're not going to be like, well, I guess we can make the best of it. No. What you and your wife did, you stood up and you screamed, no. Not on my watch. Not while I have to get up every morning and look myself in the mirror. You and your wife are wonderful, amazing. I'm sure that you have heard this word too. Have you been called tzaddik before?
Never.
Okay, so a tzaddik is like someone who is very pure in soul. So here on Zionist AF, we like to throw in, Hebrew words here and there, as long as we explain what they are, because not all of our podcast listeners are fluent in Hebrew or even Jewish, because it's not about that. This flag may have a star of David. I have to be very careful when I read back now, but this star is on the flag, but that doesn't mean you have to be Jewish to live in Israel, and many people are not, right? And it's not about that. But we do try to, bring things in. And so, like, it means a lot to me. And I am an emotional person. So I'm not going to apologize for crying, Phelim, because I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But you've really, honestly, thank you so much. It's touched me. And I know that it's helped in a lot of ways, just knowing to the people you spoke to, and that word is getting around, like, do you guys know there's this husband and wife journalism? They're journalists, and they came to Israel and they to interview, and they took their time, and they're like, this is what we're going to do. And then they wrote about it, because they're not going to be silent. And they're going to share these stories. I hope that you and your wife know the impact that you're having. And even though sometimes you're making people uncomfortable, like you said, because the truth makes people uncomfortable, thank you for that. But also thank you for being human, and thank you for being a good person, and thank you for doing this, because it really does mean a lot. And I think if more people in this world simply did what was right, or anything like do I expect everyone to do what you and your wife did? Oh God, no. That's not even possible. But I thank you, and I want to publicly say to you guys, it's a huge thing, and I hope that you two are able to give yourselves a pat on the back, maybe, and just be glad that you did this and put this together. And I know that there are this message, and the actors and actresses and the individuals that you are actually representing in this play, this is a wonderful supportive thing for everyone. So thank you so much. Is there anything else that you want our listeners to know, either about projects that you and your wife have done, are doing, or anything about the play that they need to know, aside from all the information that I'll be putting up in the description section, so they can go ahead and buy tickets?
No, I mean, look, this is all we're doing now for the foreseeable future, is getting this story out, bringing it to college campuses, bringing it around the world. If anyone out there wants to play on in their locality, let us know. We're very happy to send the script out and work with people to get a show in there. If they want to bring the show to their locality, we'll talk about that as well. We just want to get this story out. I mean, we touched on it there, but it was an interesting challenge, both as a journalist going to Israel, but also as an Irish journalist, saying, people would kind of look at you, because Ireland has not a great reputation, and deservedly so, for in terms of being fond of the truth about Israel or telling the truth. I just saw today they've cancelled the 4th of July celebrations in Killarney, which is a part of Kerry, a big tourist place, because of America's support of the war in Gaza. I mean, that's how anti-Israeli so many parts of Ireland, so many parts of the elite. I mean, can you imagine that the mathematics that takes? It's like canceling, the Russia Day because of I don't know.
But I'm confused. I'm so confused.
Yes.
So Ireland is like saying this holiday, because this country that has this holiday of their independence, we're like, no, because you're supporting this other thing. Like, I feel like this is like one of those matrix webs or something.
Yeah, listen, that's where Ireland is, and that's what we were dealing with when we went to Israel. But people, when we explained what we were doing, and once we started the interview, people realized we weren't coming with an agenda. We were, and in fact, some of the people, we worked with some fixers who had escorted many journalists around, and I remember them saying, the way you interview people is so refreshing. You're not asking questions to get the answer you want. You're asking questions so that people can talk. And it's just, so, literally sometimes the questions would be 3 words. I wasn't trying to direct. The last thing you want to do is direct the interview, because you just never know what's going to be said if you let people talk.
So in a way, this play isn't asking questions to get answers we want to produce.
Yeah.
You asked questions to allow people to share their experience and their stories and their life. Phelim, I don't know if that could be said any better. And I hope that you're able to take that as the huge compliment that it is. And by the way, I'm sure you've learned this, that Israelis, it is what it is, man. Like, we do not hold back. It's just, this is the facts. There's no, wrapping something up in a nice bow. So that is a huge compliment. And I think that everyone should realize right now that what you two did is you asked questions for one purpose: to allow the truth and people to say, this is what happened to me.
Yeah.
This is my testimony.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't my opinion. This is my testimony.
You'll see when you get there, it's not boring either. It's not people reading script. It's very dramatic. It's very immersive. People love it. The reviews are in. It's a compelling play, and it's important that it's an important play, but it's also, I don't want to use the word entertaining, but it is. It's gripping, and it's not gory.
There you go.
It's not. It's not too upsetting. It's funny. It's a play of hope and resilience as much as a play of tragedy.
That was actually going to be my final question to you. Was, after everything that you guys experienced when you were there taking testimony, what was your experience? Because when I've been to record testimony since October 7th, the resilience, the determination, the sheer grit of you may have knocked me down. One of the survivors said this to me: I may have bent, but I didn't break.
Yeah, no, totally. And that was one thing we noticed. I don't think anyone cried when we interviewed them. They all, what came out of it was hope and resilience. And we will, as somebody says, we will dance again. And so people can come to the play October 7th. The play. We're also, if they can't come, if they're outside New York, I know many of your listeners are, they can donate to the play. We're a not-for-profit. Everything's tax deductible. October 7th, theplay.com. We've had tremendous support in terms of ticket sales and in terms of donations. So we urge people to help get this out there, and that's going to determine whether we go, how many campuses we go to, where we bring it in the world, how we can get it to Ireland, all that. So please check it out and do what you can.
Yeah. So thank you. We're going to have all those links up here on the podcast in the description section. It's funny that you said they weren't crying, as you can see and hear that I am crying, but we will have that out, and we will also be coming with a follow-up podcast with the cast and crew, the whole mishpucha, as we would say, the family of the play as well. But we will urge, everyone is there. And I hope that each and every one of you guys that sees the play, or even if you can't see the play, that, can donate or whatever it is that you're doing, make sure to tell everyone else you know about it, right? Because that's how we do it. One person at a time, guys. One person at a time. Phelim, a huge thank you from me to you and your wife for coming on the podcast. And I look forward to attending the play and speaking with the cast. And I look forward to seeing you guys take this everywhere. And you know what? It's going to go so far that the mainstream media is going to have to cover it.
Yes, that's what I think. So thank you.
Thank you